Hi, guys. This is an interview I did with Ann Wright. Ann ran a huge 31-minute PR in her very first Boston Marathon, April of 2023. She also ran her first BQ. Here's her story. I'll introduce myself, but I'm Coach Chris, and I'm here with...
I'm Ann Wright.
And tell us your age and where you live. I know that, but tell everyone else.
Yeah, so I'm 32 and I live in New York City. It's my home.
Amazing. We love New York.
Yeah, it's my
New
favorite
York
place.
bias. And I also know the answer to this, but tell us how many times you've done Boston.
This is my very first. So yeah, hopefully of many, but my very first.
And you have an interesting story about how you got an entry to the race. So why don't you tell everybody that? Because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so I ran with Adidas Runners NYC when I trained for the New York City Marathon in 2022. And since they're the apparel sponsor, they have some bibs that they can give out. So I went to their holiday party and was lucky enough to win a raffle. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the luckiest I've ever been in my life." So I was super thrilled. So I was planning on running the Jersey City Marathon this spring, but I was very happy to readjust and yeah, run Boston through Adidas. So I feel really lucky and fortunate to have gotten that spot because it's really difficult to get a spot that's not a time qualifier or a charity spot. So that was really lucky for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the lottery of all lotteries, I think, for
Yeah.
runners. Um, were you always, was Boston on your bucket list? Was that a goal of yours, or what were your thoughts about it before you got in?
Yeah, so I mean I've run my whole life, but not super seriously. Like, I mean, I knew about the Boston Marathon, knew people who had done it, knew like it was really prestigious, but I just kind of thought like, oh, that's cool, but not really in my league. But then I ran the Staten Island half last fall, and I ran 1:46:11. That was the first time I thought like, hey, maybe I could, work a little harder and qualify and get in. So it's really only been about 6 months that running it or qualifying for it had even been a goal for me, and it was just like a dream come true to be able to do it.
And I know the end result of the race, so we're not going to get there yet. Let's
Okay.
keep this
Okay.
as the big reveal at the end, as the secret that we reveal later. Um, so talk a little bit about your training going into Boston and how you thought you were going to approach Boston.
Yeah. So I was saying I've run my whole life, but I really only started training seriously summer 2022. Before that, my PR had been like 4:21 from 2019. I did 4:25 at the New York City Marathon in 2021. Um, and then I trained with Adidas runners. I started training with a group for the first time last summer, which was huge. I should have done it many years before. um, so that really helped me. I ran 3:59:57 at the New York City Marathon last fall, but it was such a hot day. I felt like I could have done much better. Just the conditions didn't allow it. Um, so, and then I got this spot in December. So January 1st, I came back from the holidays. I knew I was going to train for Boston, and I really wanted to do my best. So I made two changes. So January 1st, I started running with the Dashing Whippets running team in New York City, which made a huge difference. I mean, I was the slowest person at almost every single Tuesday, Thursday workout. And I was just like, wow. I mean, it was like there were some times where it was a little bit hard because I felt a little self-conscious, but I mean, everyone was so kind and welcoming. No one ever did or said anything to make me feel self-conscious. It was just me. But it was so inspiring to be around so many fast runners and, encouraging, kind people. And it pushed me to work really hard. So I joined the Dashing Whippets. And then also on January 1st, I joined a gym, which I haven't really been a gym person in the past. And I went like 6 days a week to group fitness classes. So I just did I have a little bit of a different approach to training than most people. So I just did the 3 dashing whippets workouts. So tempo on Tuesday, track on Thursday, long runs on Saturday. And I never missed a workout. I did have to modify some of them, or some of them, I was out of town or couldn't make it, but I did those 3 workouts, and then I cross trained 6 days a week, almost every week. So doing either like cardio, strength classes, and some yoga classes. And yeah, I felt like I just really wanted to do my best, and so I I felt like I was in a good time of my life where I could devote the time and energy to training. So I really gave this training cycle everything I had. It was hard,
It
but
was hard, but it certainly paid off, and I think you took a different approach than a lot of other runners uh, would or have. So now tell everybody what your finish time was and how big of a PR you ran.
yeah. So I finished in 3:28:49. Can I just make sure my medal? Yes, 3:28:49. I don't want to say it wrong. Yeah, so that was a PR by, I wrote down, 31 minutes and 8 seconds for me.
31 minutes. That's huge. 31 minutes, folks. And on the Boston course, which is not an easy course by any stretch of the imagination. Anybody who's run it will tell you it is really hard, especially for people who have never run it before, because it's one of those that it'll sort of lead you into this false sense of security in the early downhills and then can eat you alive in the hills in the back half. But you PR'd, huge PR. You ran
Yeah.
also your first BQ ever, right?
Yeah, my first BQ ever. And I mean, at the beginning of the training cycle, I kind of looked at my training from last fall, and I was like, I think I have it in me, but I need to really focus and I need a good day. And I'm just so grateful that everything came together, because there's so many things that can go wrong. Like I could have gotten really injured. It could have been, I mean, just 3 days earlier, it was so hot. Like it could have been
Hmm. Hmm.
hot, I could have been sick. And so I'm just like so happy. When I finished the race, I told everyone at the finish line, I was like, this is the best day of my life. I mean, I've since revised that to one of the best days. So like that might have been a little bit of an overstatement, but I mean, I just never felt like a fast person. But I'm like, well, I guess if I qualify for Boston, I mean, we'll see if it's enough of a cushion to get me back there next year. But just to have a BQ like in my body, I was just so thrilled. So I'm just really happy and grateful that everything came together so that I could have a good day.
This is a very good day. I mean, I I think most of us strive, if we've BQ'd before, it's sort of an extra, star next to your name if you can BQ at Boston. That's something that people who've gone back to run the Boston Marathon multiple times. That's one of those little, feathers in our cap that we like to tout because the course is so difficult, and a lot of
Yeah.
times people can BQ on a flat course. They come to Boston and they can't BQ again because it as I said, it's tricky and the course is not easy. The weather is always a wild card as well. So the fact that you did that is really impressive, I think, even for, veteran Boston marathoners. Um, Take us through a little bit about what you were thinking during the race. Like at the halfway point, did you think, "Oh man, I'm gonna do it," or at what point did you figure out that you were having like this amazing day?
Yeah, so I started in corral 4, sorry, wave 4, corral 7, 7 out of 8. So I was really, towards the back, and you can't sneak in. They check every bib. So like that's where I had to start. Um, so the first mile I think was 9:04, which so my goal um so I had a good day at the New York City half 4 weeks before Boston, which predicted I could do a race pace of about 7:50. But I knew 8 minutes per mile would get me to 3:30. So my goal race pace, like on my Garmin, was 7:50 to 8. Um, and so but I started so far in the back. So my first mile was 9:04. And then it was really stressful. Because I didn't
Yeah.
want to run into people or trip someone or fall. Um, and then actually by mile 2, I was inside my race pace, but still like extremely stressed about all the people around me.
Yeah.
And honestly, the whole course, I was stressed about the people around me because I was constantly passing people and, you know, trying to not be too much of a jerk or like trip people or weave too much. So after mile 1, when things opened up a bit, I was like, I'm going to try to go 750 just to take advantage of that downhill on the first few miles and to get back to my 330. I wore a 330 pace band. So I did, and by mile 9, I was back on track because I was like, I can't make it up too quickly because I'm going to burn up too much
Yes.
glycogen. So, by mile 9, and the whole course was just such a blur because I was so focused. Um, but by mile 9, because the first few miles, I was like, "Can I keep up this pace?" But you're warming up, so that you can't trust the way you feel. But then I just got in the zone, and at mile 9, I was finally on track for my 3:30 finish, and I was like, "Okay." Mile 12 was the first time where I felt like I was gonna do it because I was feeling so fresh and so good. Like, I just really felt like it was gonna happen. But still, I mean, as any marathoner knows, you can feel like it's gonna happen, and then like mile 24, just
Mhm.
you fall apart. So, that's when mile 12 was the first time I felt like it was gonna happen. And then I hit the Newton Hills. I think I had 45 seconds. I gotta check my Garmin to double check, but I think I hit the Newton Hills with a 45-second buffer, and so I was like, that's just barely enough, right? Because you're gonna
Mhm.
slow down on the hill. So, like, I through the Newton Hills, I just counted them off 1, 2, 3, 4, and luckily, running in New York City, we have the opportunity to run so many hills, and I just thought about all the hills I'd run with Adidas and the Dashing Whippets and all those bridges, and I just powered through them, and actually, um, like the only 1 mile was I only Heartbreak Hill was I over my race pace, so 7:50 to 8. Heartbreak Hill, I was 8:15, but then the next mile I was 7:45, so it evened out. But yeah, once I got through the Newton Hills, I was just so grateful. Um, and that was when I reassessed and I was like, okay, I got 5 miles left. Can I give more? And I was like, no, I can't. I didn't feel like I was in any danger of hitting the wall. I felt good on my energies, but I was worried about my legs, um, just like my quads. I didn't have any cramps or anything, but I just didn't know how much longer my legs could go. So at mile 21, I was just my goal is to just hit race pace, and like about the sit go sign, some random stranger, this guy, and he's reached out to me on Instagram. We connected. I was like crying, and he came up on me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm fine." I was like, "I'm gonna BQ though." I was just so. I mean, I was in pain, but I was just so excited because I was like, I have a mile left, and I knew I was gonna do it. And he's like, "I'm doing 3:32." He's like, "Come with me." But he was like sprinting, and I was like, "No, I can't," because my
Yeah.
legs. I was like, "I can keep race pace. I can't do anything more than race
Yeah.
pace." So I was like, I just gotta hang on. And it was just a blur. I was gonna say hi to my friends at Adidas cheering at mile 23. I forgot. New York Red Runners, I love them, and they were manning mile 24. I forgot to say hi to them. I mean, I didn't read one cheer sign the entire race. I didn't say thank you to one volunteer. Like, and I like boss the volunteers around because I took your advice of getting 2 gel. So I remember approaching a gel station and I pointed at the lady and I was like, two, two, no, please or thank you. Like I was very focused and it wasn't until so my Garmin said I ran 26.45 miles. And it said the last 0.45 miles, I averaged 7:08 pace, which is like my that's like my repeat. Like when I go do 800 repeat.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until the end that I booked it. And actually, like later that night after the race, like I had no thought for my race photos. I've got some pretty horrific ones, and,
Yeah.
like, later that night, the last thing I did before I went to bed is I went back to Boylston Street because I didn't want the day to end. I was just so happy and just, walking around and looking at the finish line, and I saw the memorial for the bombings, and I thought, "Oh, like, that must be why they don't allow anyone to cheer anymore," and I was like, "No, I'm sure they just tightened security." Like, I couldn't remember people cheering at the finish because I was just so focused. And then I went on Instagram the night. I'm like, "Oh, there were tons of people at the finish," but, like, and then when I went through the finish, I kept on running because I just didn't even realize I'd crossed it. Like, the volunteer, she's like, "You're done." I was like, "Oh," like, it was just I it was kind of a weird experience. Like, I had a blister on my foot that hurt less and less the more I ran because I just couldn't even feel it. I couldn't I mean, at one point, this was probably one of my worst points on the course. It was towards the end, maybe like a mile and a half to 2 miles before the end, a spectator was going in front of me,
Oh.
um, which, and anyway, so I wasn't gonna weave, I wasn't gonna slow down, so I took 2 hands and shoved him to the side. I I was just like I was like, "You gotta get out of my way." It was it was a pretty intense experience. I just knew that every second counted and I needed all of it, and yeah, it's like a
Well,
long-winded
it
answer,
obviously
but
paid off. I mean, I think that's a good sign that you were so in the zone. I know if you're, you have only so much energy, right? You have only so much of your brain that you can give to focus on, a certain number of things. So, um, when you're running a huge PR race, I think it's normal to have a lot of those a lot of your focus become really more of a tunnel vision. It's sort of it's an interesting notion because a lot of us who have run Boston, or the talk about Boston is often about the crowds and the spectators, and you kind of like miss that part. But
yeah.
I think that I do think the fact that they were there instead of, you running completely in a void, I do think that that was probably felt more than actually, like a cognizant thing in your mind at the forefront, but I do think it was probably felt. I think the energy is palpable whether you're, like aware of it in the forefront or not, I would guess.
Yeah, I agree. Like, because I saw some, pictures and videos of people cheering, and I was so grateful for everyone that cheered. I think the energy just kind of like moved me forward, even though I wasn't really like interacting with it, but I mean, I thought the volunteers were so nice, and yeah, everyone cheering. It was an incredible event. So, but I feel like I need to go back because I don't really know what happened. I was like, I need to like look around, you know?
That's what so that was going to be my next question. Do you think you want to go back, or what is your take on the race?
Yeah, absolutely. So if my 71-second buffer is good enough, I will absolutely be back next year. And I mean, I hope for many years to come, as long as I can, run and maintain this fitness. It was such an incredible experience. And the only other world marathon major I've run is New York City, which is my favorite marathon. I mean, it's my hometown,
Yeah.
and I love it so much. But so I would still say New York City is my favorite, but it was such a special experience, and it was just so special to be around so many amazing runners. Um, like, and to run on a difficult course, like, it's a fun challenge and just so special. So I'll definitely be back, hopefully lots because it was so incredible. I loved it. I loved every moment.
Yeah, I really do think there's nothing like it, even though, I mean, we're fortunate because we have New York and it's in our backyard. So, I think we're really lucky people that, we have that race as, sort of the standard by which all others are judged in many ways. But I do think Boston is its own unique uh energy and festivity and, big race. It's still a big race, but it feels different in many ways, I think. So what other you're planning to do New York City Marathon this fall, or what else do you have going on for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I'm doing New York City this fall, and then I'm gonna race the Staten Island half 4 weeks before as a tune-up race. Because I think honestly, the New York City half really gave me the confidence that I could do, 3:30 at Boston. And then I'm doing a variety of New York Road Runner races, but I'm just gonna be running them for fun. I love to run, but I can't handle racing very often because it's so stressful for me. Like, and so I'm just gonna race 2 more times for the year.
I think that's great. Honestly, as a coach, I gotta say, I'm usually coaching people that want to race every single week, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell people, please do less. So it's rather refreshing to find somebody that's like, no, I only want to do a few. It's like, oh, okay, that is possible too, right?
Well, it's possible, but it also like I was looking recently at my Excel file with all my races, and I'm like, man, my 10K PR is from 2016, and it's 8:30 per mile, which is like my long run pace. So, maybe I should try to refresh some of these long overdue, I don't know, distance PRs. But I really only care about my half and marathon numbers, so I just let them be what they are. Like I I like to do those little races on Sunday as kind of like recovery runs, but my times
Yeah.
aren't very impressive like ever. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I don't know. Maybe in December I'll try to race like the Frosty 5K or something.
I think you and I might be in the same boat. Like I think
Oh,
my
really?
5K, yeah, I have done some 5Ks, but it's like at half marathon pace or something
Yeah, yeah.
like equivalent, because I do them in the middle of a marathon training block or something, and it's like, I'm always, I did the 20 miler the day before, and then I go out and do the 5K, and it's like, well, of course it's not super fast. But yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. If you look at the times across the board, it's like, well, what happened?
I know. Like my New York Roadrunners profile, I think people could look at me like, what is wrong with this lady? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I stopped to talk to a friend at an aid station or whatever. I don't know. But it's okay. I've got my BQ, so I feel like that's all I need to be happy. So
Yeah, honestly, I hope you do savor this. I hope you enjoy it. I hope this isn't, you have your medal on now, so I feel like that's a good sign. Um, I'm kind of one of those people where I'm sort of the opposite. I don't take this advice, but I give this advice. Like I come home, I put the stuff away, and it's like in a box and everything's piled up, and the memories are there, but I don't think about it. And so don't do that. Don't do what I do. Enjoy your accomplishment, celebrate what you've done. I'm glad that you could come and talk to everybody, and I think people will be really inspired by your story and all that you've accomplished. And so, I hope that they can celebrate with you as well.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got engaged or something. My phone like exploded on Monday, and it took me a while to get back to everyone, but it's been really exciting. And I have to say, Kristen, like I watched um, your course preview for 2023 twice, and I watched one for 2022 twice, and they were both excellent. I watched a lot of Boston course previews on YouTube, and yours was the best. So thank you so much, for your help and your encouragement when I saw you like a couple days before, and I was like freaking out. You're like, just enjoy the day. So thank you for your help and for being a part of it.
Absolutely. No, that's my pleasure. And I'm always into marathoners and marathoning, so it is really, I do it because I love it. And so I'm happy that other people can benefit from it, because like I would just do it for like my brick wall. Like I would just do it anyway. So um it's good that a couple of people, can enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It made a big difference to me on race day, so I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. And
Okay.
I just want to say thank you again for coming on. And we will, hope to hear from you again, after your next marathon, after your next BQ, and then your next PR.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kristen. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree Anne had a great race. One thing I definitely recommend that Anne mentioned is spending plenty of time on course study and review prior to race day. If you have questions, you can certainly ask me via email. I'll include my address at the end. Happy training!